Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. I'm back. I'm back in studio today, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Nice to see you.
Feeling better. So I'm starting to think it's just weird 24-hour bug I had.
Okay.
Could be.
Could have been.
Yeah, you got to watch me throw up for 10 minutes. That's
I didn't watch that.
Well,
you left for 10 minutes.
You're lucky I left. I at least knew. I knew it was coming.
Right.
I knew it was coming.
Correct. Yeah.
And then I did the show half out of it yesterday. And then by about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock last night, I started to kind of feel myself again. Actually turned on the hockey game for a little bit.
Oh,
helped Archer make cookies.
There you go.
So I started to turn the corner.
When does Archer make cookies for?
He loves making cookies.
Oh, all right. Okay.
He loves making cookies.
Got it. All right.
So
fair enough.
he makes good ones too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't doubt him.
I call him Mr. Mini Levain.
Levain.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
I like that.
You like those Levain cookies down there? They're good. They are. They're good. If you're into cookies.
Overrated,
really
but good. Yes.
I don't know about that. I think they're good.
The hype is way too out of control with them.
They're just large.
Yeah.
we
need to stop doing this because they make a giant one that they're amazing.
They are good, though.
Let's calm down.
They are really good.
No,
they're
for sure.
really good.
It's not unlike like Baked and Wired. Ginormous
I've
cupcakes.
never actually been to that. I've never actually been to that.
But their cupcakes are huge. And I'm like, all right, they're good, but...
I actually don't want a sweet thing that's that large, actually.
Right.
I typically, if I want something like that's little, I don't want things. So the Levain, I have to share that. But I do think they're really, really good.
No, I'm like,
Where are you on Crumble? Do you like Crumble?
Oh, man. Crumbles...
I have a torn relationship with Crumble. I think Levain's better than Crumble, personally.
Yes, I agree
on
with
the
you.
ranking list, I think it's better than
I would agree
Crumble.
overall, Crumble has more interesting flavors because they get to change it up. And
They are
social
inventive.
media.
I will give. They are inventive and they're very modern with the flavors they go with. But I don't want those flavors most of the time.
Yeah. But
what's wrong with a chocolate chip cookie, guys?
Crumble would do a great job if they made mini versions of all of them because
That's
when
another
you
one. They're
eat
big.
one of them,
Yeah.
you literally feel your stomach trying to digest straight butter and sugar. I mean,
Minnie Levain did ask me, since we went to France, why do Americans eat such big portions?
Oh, that's
I thought was a really
good
good
observation
question
for him.
It was a really good question. I think he was surprised by the portion size over there. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of an American thing that we eat like buffet style at every meal.
Of fries with every meal.
Right. Listen, I'm not complaining about Five Guys. I don't need the whole bag. They're great.
It's fries and they throw the cup in at the end.
Every time I order the one fries and it Archer's like, why didn't you get one for each of us? Well,
watch this. Magical bag that feeds all of us.
Right. It's a giant bag of fries. Nobody needs that.
Yeah.
Like they don't have, if you would have noticed over there in Europe, they don't have buffets. That doesn't exist. The idea of that is crazy. Yeah. They wouldn't even think to do something like that.
Right.
Like, why would you do that?
On Crumble, by the way, as you know, I've gotten much more healthy in the last year.
Yeah.
I calorie count everything. Mm-hmm. Don't ever look up those. Because
Crumble? Oh, well, there's a stick of butter in each one of those cookies.
Correct. And so they're one of those ones because I know now. I'll even cut it into a quarter, and I'll have a quarter, and I go, that wasn't worth it. Like, it's just like, that's how I go with it. Like, I have this philosophy now of like, if you want a snack or whatever, but you want something bad, like make it worth it. Like at least make it a Levain cookie or something. Great. Like,
but again, I wouldn't eat the whole thing because it's giant.
Correct, exactly. But like those, I'm out. Like
that's
I'm
a
out.
meal replacement if you eat one of those cookies.
Correct.
It's enormous.
Yeah, like now if I go around
I might
10 miles,
eat a Big Mac and fries if I'm going to order those things. It's the same, really.
That's 5 times more expensive now these days. So I mean, that's a whole different tangent. But no, Crumbles. Fine, I get the
Crumble's
flavors.
Fine, I like how they market themselves. I agree the flavors are a little much. And I'm not psyched for the strawberry shortcake birthday cake cookie. Like, I don't need that. I wasn't even thinking of it. Why would I want that?
When I go run over to my cap studio, there are deliveries there sometimes. And there are so many deliveries there that there is a special crumble cookie cutter that you drop onto the cookie and it goes into 4.
Oh, that's good.
So I thought that was kind of funny that
I like that.
You order so many, and that way you don't have to have one flavor. That I was kind of in on, because then you get 4 different flavors as one cookie. So
yeah, it feels like it's the type of cookie you split up and everybody tries a piece of each one.
Correct.
That's
exactly.
what you do.
Exactly.
All right.
It's not like when you get a bunch of Georgetown cupcakes.
Well, we settled that. Okay, we settled
Snack
that
talk.
one.
Snack talk on.
Yeah. Snack talk on.
Speaking of that,
this came up because you told me there's a Dunkin' Donuts that's going to open outside of our studio.
That's right.
Which, after all the complaining about Mazza Gallery being torn down and all the construction noises we've had to deal with for the last however long it's been, the idea of that sign popping up makes me very happy because I am a P1 customer of theirs.
And it's not at that new building. It's within the Metro thing, so it's going to be up soon, before this building is actually
They
finished.
don't waste time.
Yeah. That was AI. Hey, there's an apartment building opening up across the street. Get a Dunkin' in there right now.
What else are we getting in there? Whole Foods?
Oh, I have no idea what we're getting.
Oh, we already have a Whole Foods.
Yeah, there's a Whole Foods right
Trader
there.
Joe's, maybe popping up down there.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe another Wegmans. Maybe there's one down the street, but maybe one of those will pop up in there.
Where's the Wegmans? Oh,
down in
Tenley
by WUSA. There's a
in
Tenleytown. There's a Wegmans down there. It's kind of hidden. You have to know it's there.
Right, yeah. I've not been there. But no, I don't know what else we're getting.
All right.
Here,
but we got a Dunkin'. That's a win for me.
Massive.
That's a huge win for me.
Now, you know how this works.
I have the points and everything.
Cool.
I have a huge customer. They see me every day. They love me.
You know how this works, though. We're going to find out real fast whether it's one you want to go to or you don't want to go to.
Why?
Because there's certain Dunkins that are just better than others.
Yeah, well,
you can get the same drink 50 times, and it is different all 50 times.
That's true, right?
So I'm just
depends.
saying.
Yeah,
just saying.
the service matters there.
Yeah.
Do they take the
more than anything
proportions
else
seriously?
Dunkin' and Starbucks are so flipped. Starbucks, you can it's like McDonald's. You order it anywhere, it's the same.
It's the same
That's exact thing.
That's true. Dunkin', I order the same thing every day, and it will taste different. That's true. It will depend.
Wild card, roulette wheel.
True.
It could be the worst cup of coffee you've ever had, and you order it the next day, and it's perfect.
I've had this argument many times with people. I think Dunkin's way better than Starbucks, just for the regular coffee. Forget the rest of it for a moment. I don't want the food from either one of the places, really. But, whatever.
Sure.
It's not bad in either place. It's just I don't find myself wanting the food in either place all that often. I go in there to order the coffee. I think Dunkin's way better than Starbucks, just for the regular like Pike Place versus regular Dunkin' coffee.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah,
I don't actually think it's close.
I agree.
But I've had arguments where the other people on the other side will basically, it's like a Coke Pepsi thing. They'll be like, "You're nuts," and tell me Dunkin' is trash, and I only drink Starbucks. And
no, I
think it's Dunkin' over Starbucks, and it's not even close. But that's just me.
No, I hard agree because you're just talking about the basic cup of
basic
iced coffee too. Their iced coffee kicks Starbucks in the butt. Compared price wise too.
It's not close
because you're paying $5, $6, $7 at Starbucks. It's like $3 or $4 at Dunkin'.
Listen, I know what good coffee tastes like, and I realize that this isn't that. But if you're going to go to the level of the everyday chain coffee, Dunkin' over Starbucks, and it's not close, in my opinion.
I agree with you on that.
I also have some kind of thing with Starbucks that I don't like them. I don't know why. There's something about what they did that it got so chainy that I hate it.
Oh yeah, because it's on every street corner.
Every street corner, their drinks are ridiculous now. I don't want a bubble tea.
I was saying you also have kids, so they're asking for these ridiculous things too, right?
I want the pink drink with the bubbles in it. It's like, I thought you served coffee. Like what's going on here? What's next? Like, are you gonna get some quesadillas? Yeah. Like, what else are you gonna sell? Like, this is ridiculous.
I think I flipped when I saw so many of those baristas posting online of just how miserable their lives are because they're all these complicated things. And I know it's their job.
It's gotten bad.
I know it's their job, but when I just think about what you've got to deal with when you sign up to work at one of those places,
now
I'm like,
I don't know how you keep up anymore.
I don't blame you for going
Dunkin'
crazy.
does some of that, not as many,
not as much.
And I think most people who go in there aren't looking to order those things.
All it is flavor combinations with Dunkin'.
Right. Yeah.
That's all it is. Whatever you're ordering is two flavors that they're pumping together. That's it. That's all it is.
I'm happy they're going there. Maybe Levain's coming in here. Who knows?
There's one of those up in Bethesda. They're not doing that one close.
Who knows? All right, let's get into what's happening in the world of sports, which locally is the name came up again. So I am and not. There's a disconnect here. Okay. They've said privately and publicly they're not doing anything about the Commander's name anytime soon. They haven't taken it off the table, that they aren't going to do something down the road. But I don't feel like most of the local media is listening to this when they say we're not doing anything about it now. So for some reason, this has come up again, and it reached the point of being asked the wife of Josh Harris yesterday at a charity event what she thinks of the name, which I'm not suggesting is an inappropriate question. I guess it's fine to hear her on the record about it's just another voice on it. What do you think about it? Someone who has control over that decision. Okay, but will you agree with me that wasn't this kind of settled law here that it's not definitive that it's going to stay Commanders forever, but they aren't going to do anything about it in the short term? So why are you Why is this coming up again?
Well, because
we've had a couple of these now that popped up where I go, they've already answered this question and told you it's not going to happen. Why are you wasting your breath?
It was the Washington Post poll
about it?
that came out yesterday. That's
that a lot of people don't like.
Yeah, it was like I think only in terms of it was like love, like, indifferent, don't like it, hate it. In every category, it was over 50%.
I didn't see this poll. I've been sick. I didn't see this poll.
I thought you were just.
I was wondering why this came up.
Avoiding it yesterday.
No. I actually, because I was sick, I was a little out of it yesterday. You couldn't tell. So I was like, I missed the poll. Maybe I need to. Maybe okay. So now this makes more sense to me. I didn't know why people were asking about it.
Yeah, because when the Post brings up a poll, you kind of have to talk about it.
Yeah, I guess.
So
I understand.
Here's the the question was this. Regardless of what you think about the Washington Commanders as a football team, which of the following best describes how you feel about the name of the Commanders? Do you love it, like it, dislike it, or hate it? And there was also no opinion and skipped in there as well. There were 3 categories. Follow along. DC area overall, so I guess generic civilians.
Okay.
Sports fans.
Okay.
And then Commanders fans.
Okay.
3% DC overall and sports fans, and then 4% were love it.
Okay. Right.
31% in both DC overall, sports fans, and then 32% like it.
Okay.
So then we go into the other categories. 17, 12, and 7% skipped it or had no opinion on it.
Okay.
31%, 33%, and 36% dislike it.
Yeah.
18, 20, and 21 hate it.
Okay. All right.
Over 50%.
So it's like 50-50 between indifferent to like to dislike and hate.
Yes. Right.
50-50.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds about right to me.
I also will...
Sure. I mean, I'll take the polling of it. But yeah, sure. I mean, that sounds about right to me.
I think I need to throw in a...
They're saying 1/5 of most people really, really dislike it.
That's right. Right.
Like
exactly.
dislike and hate. Like, I bet you if you asked the same question of the Wizards, you probably would get a very similar answer to this, where 1/5 of older people like me who remember the name Bullets and actually liked it and also just don't like this name would probably tell you here 20-some years later, I still feel the same way about it.
Right.
I don't know that I would go so far as to call it hatred of it at this point because it's been around so long. But if you asked me honestly, what do I think of that name? I would say I don't like it.
Correct. Right.
So
I'll throw a kind of like little firecracker here, though. If you're the Commanders and you have 17, 12, and 7% that have no opinion, that's as good as a no, as far as I'm concerned.
Sure, I guess. But I mean, but those, again, 7% of Commanders fans have no opinion of it?
Yeah, it said no opinion or they skipped it.
Or skipped it.
So
they skipped
that's a no.
One.
That's a no, though. Like
they just didn't want to say that.
If you can't win
I'm trying to be nice about it.
Right, but if you can't win over your actual fans, that's a no.
Yeah, I mean, like if you just ask regular citizens who aren't sports fans, then them just saying I don't know how to even answer this question makes sense to me.
17%. So that was that was the highest one. Where just generic DC area overall.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah, that's where this is where this all bubbled back up because there was an actual formal poll about it.
Now I seem to at least understand this because they've told me privately and they've said this basically publicly. They're not doing anything about this for the foreseeable future. Yep. So Mrs. Harris was asked about this yesterday, and this was her response to it.
As you would imagine, everybody has an opinion about the name. Some good, some bad, some in the middle. And I think that we have a lot of work to do, and so that name issue is going to be on the side for now until we can get things going. And I mean, quite frankly, I had a whole day out in the community, and I kept referring to the team as the Commanders, and you know what? It sounds pretty good to me. So for now, it's the Commanders.
Okay. What's notable there, and we parse out every word that everybody says, is she said it twice.
Yeah.
For now.
For now.
For now. This is where I've landed on this for a while. I do think they're going to change the name. I don't think it's happening anytime soon. Now, if where could change this is if they start winning. Right. If they start winning and the team gets accustomed to winning under the name Washington Commanders, then that may change their thought process about it.
Yeah.
Because winning changes everybody's mind about literally everything. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to like this team more if they're winning a lot. And I don't know whether they will or they won't. But if they do over the next, because this isn't happening anytime soon, if all of a sudden we're Houston next year and we have this kind of takeoff type season where we get into the playoffs somehow, and it's looking really on the up and up with Jaden Daniels as the quarterback, and then we go sign a couple of guys to make the team better, and we have all this hope and hype, and let's just say they have a couple of years in a row where they make the playoffs, which hasn't happened in 25 years. They go back to the playoffs. Like, when was the last time they went back to the playoffs? Early 90s?
Yeah, it had to be. Yeah, not in my lifetime.
I mean, we can name the times since the 2000s that they've been to the playoffs.
Correct. Yeah,
we can name the times that happened.
Yes.
So I believe, I'd have to look it up, but I believe the last time they went to back-to-back years in the playoffs was the year after they won their last Super Bowl. Because they made the playoffs the year after they won their last Super Bowl. They lost in the playoffs, and then Joe Gibbs retired. And they didn't make the playoffs under Norv and God, who am I forgetting? Pettibone. They didn't make it under Pettibone or Norv until the late 90s.
Yeah, it was 91, 92.
Is the last time they went to back-to-back playoff
90,
years.
91, and 92. They actually went 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row.
Yeah.
They won the Super Bowl in 91. They went back in 92. They lost in the playoffs. Joe Gibbs retired. Richie Pettibone got the job. All these things changed. Free agency, the salary cap. Then he had a bad season. He retired or left. Norv was hired. They didn't get back to the playoffs again until late in the 1990s, and they only made it that one time under Norv before he was fired.
I just want to say in 90, 91, 92, they won a playoff game in every single one of those years.
That's right.
They won 3 playoff games.
Yes, they won a playoff game in the last year, and then they lost.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right.
I've had one.
And a Super Bowl, right? And then since they went in the late 1990s and got to the second round and lost, but looked like it was going on the up and up, and then Snyder got Jeff George in.
Yeah, right.
And it all started to spiral, and then 2000 happened. And they had all those players in here, but it was a bust season. They fired Norv in the middle of it, right? Which started the spiraling. And then from that point forward, they've been to the playoffs, 3 times, right? Just 3.
Since that time, 5 times.
Since 2000?
Yeah. 05, they won, was their last playoff win.
05, they won.
07 after Sean Taylor passed away.
Okay.
12 with RG3. 15 with Kirk when they won the division.
Oh, right. And then they went and lost to Brady in the pandemic year.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct. Okay, so it has been 5 times in 20 years, right? And only won one playoff
25.
game.
It'll be 25 years.
Yeah, right. Right, 99. Yeah. So they've been to the playoffs 5 times in 25 years and won one playoff game.
Correct, yeah.
Of that period time.
Correct. And it was Joe
Gibbs.
And
never went to back-to-back years. Right. And the one was Joe Gibbs.
It took Joe Gibbs coming back for it to happen.
So, again.
It's so ridiculous.
Right, again. So I'll go back to my original point here. If they start winning, I do think people's minds will change about this if they associate this team name with them winning. If they don't, I think this will linger. And as time goes by, I do think people get more accustomed to this is what the team name is. This goes back a little bit to the Wizards. I remember clear as day when they finally announced that was going to be the team name. I remember thinking that is a huge mistake.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Similarly, to this, that is a huge mistake. People loved the name Bullets. We all understood why it was the same thing. Mm-hmm. We all understood why you felt the need to change it. We understood why you went through the process, but where you landed didn't feel right.
Yeah, sure.
It had, at least this has an association to Washington, D.C., the military. That had no association whatsoever. That's why it really made no sense.
Argument, though, you can shorten Wizards.
Yeah, I guess you can.
That's still my number one thing of how you came up with a new name.
It's still nobody likes it. I mean, come on. Even 20-some years later, nobody's in love with the name Wizards.
Right, but it also, they do what we've talked about. They honestly shy away from their own name. It's Washington. It says District on the front. District of Columbia on the front.
When I say Washington constantly.
Did you? Okay, so I wanted to ask you this. Did you see pictures of these events yesterday?
Yes.
All of them, because it's I forget what the actual name of their charitable foundation is now. It's Washington something.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
If you looked at all of the tablecloths and stuff they had yesterday, Washington in huge letters.
Right.
And then it was Commanders Charity, whatever the hell it was, underneath.
Right. Look, I mean,
Washington in humongous letters.
Look, I don't think they're shying. Here's where I'm at.
Yeah,
with it.
Look, you can see part of it. It's whatever it is, something foundation. Yes. Washington is massive. Right. That's on purpose.
It's on purpose. Correct. I don't feel like that they are. Florio brought up are you speaking out of both sides of your mouth with the old imagery and name, which I thought was a fair question after the Dan Quinn wore that shirt situation, where we're all wondering what just happened here. How did the coach wear a non-team issued shirt?
Told you.
right? Like, how did that happen? And then so he started asking the question.
Into a conspiracy theory.
Correct. Right. And now, like, you could sit there and say, we don't have an issue with the name and we actually kind of like it. But then everything that you promote never says the word on it.
Right.
Like, is a both sides of your mouth argument about the name. I think all she's trying to say and what all they've been trying to say is she reiterated it. And she used the words for now. Yep. This is what it is for now. And I don't know what's going to happen over the next few years. If they start winning, I think people may feel differently about the name. And I think that's what they probably feel like. It is quite an endeavor, as we learned the first time, to change the name of a team. And it doesn't mean you're going to get it right. Look where we're sitting here today, where we're having polls in the Washington Post saying, do you like this name?
Over 2 years later.
Almost doing the research and throwing it at the ownership and saying, see, why don't you do, since you said you wanted to listen to the fans, here's what the fans are saying. And it's 50-50 that anyone even likes it, let alone loves it. And the loves it is of actually very slim margin of people.
That's right.
And there's a lot of people that really dislike it. Are you going to do something about it? And all they've said all along is, guys, we got a lot on our plate. And that's not at the top of the list. And we're going to own this team a long time. And we'll address it. And trust me, our family knows the history. And we are not going to not take this seriously. We are. It's just that we need to get this stadium first. And it's just that we need to get this organization going first. And it's just that we have a lot of hirings that have been going on. We're trying to get the on the field right. We're trying to fix a structure at the stadium that's been a mess. We're trying to fix the training facility. We're trying to get a new stadium in one of these jurisdictions. We're trying to get Congress to pass this thing. It may be important to you. It's just not to us at this moment.
I think.
And in the end, if we get all these other things right, you may not have a problem with the name once we get to that. And I don't have a problem with that thinking. There's no rush to change it again. And so now at least I understand where it is. I missed that poll. I was like, why did they even ask her about that? I was like, why did they even ask her about that? They've said they're not going to do anything about it, not in the short term.
There's a quote from Jason Wright that I want to get to, too, that Ben tweeted out today as well. But I compare this to...
it sucks if people ask him because, I know. It's just like, it's such a tough spot for him to be in.
Because like, who helmed that? Don't know about that one. At least he can blame the previous owner. But I compared to this. This ownership group just bought a really, really nice 64 Impala, and the body's in great shape, but everything else is a mess.
That's right. It's a distressed property.
And so what is happening here is everyone's going, God, that thing's rusting and it's ugly. It needs a paint job. And they're going, guys, we got to replace the whole effing engine.
That's right.
And get tires.
That's right.
Get new AC and new radio and everything. The paint job will come last, guys.
That's right.
And when it does, promise you, it's going to look really great because we're fixing all of these other things.
We need the engine humming first.
Yes, right.
You're not gonna like the Redskins again if they suck.
That's a great point. Yes, correct.
You're not.
We need to get this thing straight.
Whatever we call them, you're not gonna like them. Like, we bought this old Ford Bronco that on the lot is worth $10,000. But like, when we put the new engine in it, because it's popular, is going to be worth $150.
That's right.
Let us put the engine in first.
Correct.
I agree with you. Like I said this at the time, I go, they just paid a premium, the largest amount ever, for a distressed property. Yes. Think about that for a second. Like what they just did. They bought a stadium that's in disrepair. They bought a team that needs a complete image remake in so many different ways. They bought an organization that isn't winning, and they have to flip over the roster, make all these changes. Like, just imagine the amount of money that they're sinking in after they paid $6 billion for it.
Exactly.
They didn't buy something that wasn't in this condition. Like, David Rubenstein bought the Orioles, right? You could call them somewhat that team's winning.
That's right.
They have young stars, and they're in a stadium everybody loves.
That's right. Yep.
They have a name people like. They have uniforms people like. He didn't buy a distressed property. He bought a property that's been waiting to be re-engaged with the community because they didn't like the ownership. That's not what this is.
He got a 2024 Lamborghini that he just needed to take over the payment.
That's
plan
right.
For. That's what he got. That's completely opposite. He got a bright orange Lambo.
He should have paid more for that than he did.
Right.
This team, because the NFL is so popular, paid a premium for a property that, because it's the NFL and because it's the age of it and it's because it has the history attached to it, was worth that. But in reality, there were so many things that this group was going to have to put money into. And that's why this issue is not top of their list. And That's partially, now I'm like asking the Washington Post, why ask that question right now? Like, what's the point of even asking that question?
So they were pulled
because they're not going to do anything about it. And don't you understand why?
They were pulled a month ago, so it was kind of in the thick of everything with the data coming about.
This also came out with the RFK thing too, right?
Yes,
and they're spreading this out. We asked a lot of polls about a lot of questions in this poll about a lot of different things, and we're spreading it out and making the most of the content.
Exactly.
Because we had the RFK poll recently, which was surprising that it was so many district residents wanted it.
Right.
You're the ones paying for it, guys. So I'm happy to hear you want it. Actually,
the quote from Wright was on the optimism of both the organization and the Wetzel family, the ones that came forward with Danes, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, there certainly is optimism. The Wetzel family has been so collaborative. They've helped to educate us. Quote, we feel like there's several different great ways to honor the family. I think that's what Senator Daines was saying. So it sounds like even Jason Wright, though, is also leaving the door open for whatever Daines is talking about there, too. That's the most endorsement we've gotten from the team from Daines, though.
Well, they have to satisfy this senator to get them to move the legislation forward. What does that mean? Does that mean selling T-shirts with that old logo on it in the team store? Okay, well, you need the NFL to agree to allow you to do it.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything offensive about it. Do they want to crack that door open and get whatever blowback that they inevitably are going to get for doing it? That's up to them, and that's what they're going to have to decide. And if the NFL, in coordination with the team, determines they don't want them to do it because they don't want to crack that door open, then they'll have to figure out how to satisfy the family without giving them the IP back. I mean, I think that's what we all know.
Exactly.
Right? That's what we know. But, like, if they do then agree to crack that door open, the NFL is then implicitly saying, we're kind of okay with all of this again.
Yes, right, exactly.
So maybe they are just slow rolling. Let's just see how this all plays out.
I told you, I think they're figuring out what the line is.
Yeah.
Because they're
Here's what we all know.
They're saying out loud.
The team name will not be Redskins again.
Yes.
Just don't get that mixed up in your brain. That's not going to happen.
Right. But what I said was, they're telling you in front of your face, we're not changing it anytime soon. But that doesn't mean they can't do the old psyop of what is the line?
What's the line?
Find out what
Where
it is.
are we? You know, and do they end up going back to RFK wearing uniforms that look like the Redskins, that have some Native American imagery like, I don't know, feathers on the helmet in some way? That doesn't feel that completely out of the realm.
Right.
What would the name be at that point? I don't know.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, and do they end up just going back to Washington football team, which I highly doubt, but like, never know.
Right. Exactly. There's a second part of this poll that I think we should jump in on the other side about all of the teams. I think you'll enjoy like why I want to talk about it.
Okay. All right. We'll do that next. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. That's my girl. My girl Cardi B from back in 2018.
And Bruno.
Because we are 6 years to the day. Of one of the greatest moments in Capitals history, if not the greatest moment. Braden Holtby made the save in Game 2, which spurred a turnaround, a win, tied the Stanley Cup final 1-1 in Vegas. The Capitals would not lose another game in that series and would end up winning their one and only Stanley Cup 6 years ago, just a few days later. I was fortunate enough to be in Vegas for Game 1. I was not in attendance for Game 2. I had come home. Should have stuck around for that. Went to the home games,
but
I was
together for Game 1.
Yeah, I was all in.
Not sitting together, but
I
we
was
were
all in on it. And it is, you know, of Washington, D.C. sports history, it's one of the great moments. I would put that up there with Riggo's run in the Super Bowl. Boy, you could pick a lot of them from that World Series run.
Oh my God,
there's a lot of them.
The Nats have 5
Kendrick
of the top
hitting
10,
the
maybe.
foul pole.
Yes.
There's a lot of just the look on Kershaw's face, like after he gave up back-to-back home runs. There's a lot. That was the craziest run I think any team here has ever had.
No, it's not.
They were underdogs in just about everything they were in at that point. They had comebacks in every game. The moments were just jump out of your skin moments.
They trailed in every single elimination game.
Yes.
Like
it was just
that's the definition of cardiac.
It was incredible. It was not anytime soon. Yeah. They may win another one, but it'll never ever be like that.
It's never gonna be like that.
No.
Yeah.
And so Braden Holtby in the Capitals. One day his number will go up into the rafters. He's retired now, right?
Yes, he's officially retired. He lives in the area now. He's a local. He's a DMV local. And I would say though that Holtby save, which caused them to win the Stanley Cup eventually, I think helped the Nats because I told you once we got one out of the way, everyone could breathe in all of these moments now. That it wasn't like, oh, the Nats are trailing, and you have the pressure of the Commanders fan, Nats fans, Caps fans, Wizards fans, because they all just want someone to move on.
Yep.
Once one won a championship, everyone got to breathe a little bit.
Now we're just trying to get somebody in the playoffs these days.
That's right. Yeah,
It's
start
difficult.
low. Start low again.
Yeah, the bar is very low right now for all the teams.
Yeah.
We're also now a couple weeks away from 6 years to the day of Ovechkin getting drunk at the fountains and
correct,
the greatest tour of the Stanley Cup after a win as it made its way through the streets of Washington with no rhyme or reason and just social media updates of, oh my God, it's here now.
That's right. Yes, exactly.
Nobody's topped that, in my opinion.
No one has.
Nobody has topped that.
I will say NHL teams have tried to party like them. It hasn't been like that. It hasn't even reached that.
All right, what else was in this poll you wanted to tell me about that started with the name thing, which is why Mrs. Harris was asked about it at a charitable event and then reiterated twice, for now, the name of the team is Commanders.
Right.
And, oh, by the way, I went out in the community and some people told me they liked it, which was her answer to that question.
So I have a little bit of a gripe with this next question the Post asked, because I think if you're in our business, you know how different this question is. The question was this: would you describe yourself as a fan of the blank or not? Yes or no? And it was the 4 major teams. And it started off with the Nationals, 59%.
Said yes, they're a fan.
They're a fan of the Nationals.
Who'd they ask? Just
this is
residents
a
of
poll,
the area?
This is a poll of 1,295 sports fans in the D.C. area.
Okay.
Nationals with 59%, Capitals with 50%, Commanders 45%, Wizards 37%.
Okay.
I have a problem with this mainly because all 4 of those sports, the definition of a fan of one of those teams is completely different than the next one. Like,
what do you mean?
I think in baseball, people have multiple teams. Like, you can be a Nats and an Orioles fan in this area. You can be a transplant and be a diehard Yankees fan, but still be a Nationals fan because you live here.
Yeah, there's no, I lived in Philly, now I like the Commanders and the Eagles. That's just not ever happening.
Hockey, a little bit different here.
Yeah, I think football's very tribal. Like, I've heard of people, I know some people have moved to certain places and they weren't a natural rival of the team they liked. And
that's fine.
Like, I have a friend who lives in Florida. And he grew up in New Jersey and loved the Giants. And now he's just around the Dolphins all the time.
Sure,
so he's like, you know what? I like the Dolphins. They're fun to watch.
AFC.
Their stadium's actually better than people know.
Yep.
And, oh, by the way, they were never a natural rival of the Giants in the first
AFC
place.
team too, right?
Right.
That natural cutoff, right? Capitals are a little different. Not every market has a hockey team. And we've talked about it on this show, how they're the reverse transplant. People actually come here, become Capitals fans, then move out of the area. And that's why you get all these Caps fans at away games. So that one I also don't put as much weight. But then you look at Commanders fans, 45%. Same thing. I want to know who you're asking here. It says DC area sports fans. If they're not from here, they're rooting for wherever they're coming from.
I agree with that. Yes.
And so that's why I feel like there's a follow-up.
This still is a very major transplant town.
Yes.
Not as much as it used to be.
Sure.
But
sure.
because our area has grown exponentially. So I think there's been more people who have stayed. But it will always be, not unlike New York. New York never gets this heat. Like, that's a transplant town too.
Right. Yeah,
People
exactly.
go there because it's the financial epicenter of the world. Of course, people move there to work there, and they're from other places.
Yeah.
Not everybody's from New York or lives there. LA, similarly, there's a million Lakers fans, of course, but like, a lot of people move there because it's the entertainment industry.
Exactly.
People will always move here because it's the political center. So people from all walks of life are going to move to Washington, D.C. to be part of that world.
So I feel like there had to be a pre-question or a follow-up question of, are you from here?
I agree with that.
Because
you are never going to be a Commanders fan if you're not from here.
Right.
You might turn into a Capitals fan. That's true.
That's
you
what I'm
might
saying.
turn into a Nationals fan. That's true.
Well, because also
just because you're around it all the time and it's easily accessible.
And like I said, I think it's the definition of fan for all those sports is a little bit different.
Yeah, I agree.
Because guess what? And I also want to know, honestly, with that Nationals number, where were you asking these people? Because if you went down to Navy Yard, then there's going to be the Navy Yard, young crowd is going to tell you that they're Nationals fans because they live down there, right?
Right.
And then there's the Wizards at 37%. And that's because, well, it's a Stars League, and they haven't had any real stars here in a long time.
That is a more important question to ask people who are from here. If you are from here, are you a Commanders fan? And if that was a 50-50 answer, that would be worrisome to me.
I agree. Exactly.
If you are just asking people who live here, but they could be from anywhere, anybody who's from Buffalo who works on Capitol Hill likes the Bills.
Right.
Period.
And you're not. Yeah, you're not. And what I'm getting at is you're not.
Go ask Luke Russert about it.
Yeah,
like period.
You're not skewing from that. Is what I'm getting at. Whereas, like I said,
anybody from here who moves up to wherever likes the Commanders because they grew up with it.
And like I would say this for baseball, like minus the winners here, but like let's say you grew up. I'm just gonna throw one out here that's like not like a big team. Like let's say you grew up West Coast. You were an Angels fan growing up, but you live here now. You're not gonna hesitate to say that you're a Nationals fan.
You like the Nationals.
Like, but if you were a bad example for football, but let's just use it for an example. You were a Raiders fan and you moved here. Okay. You're not going to say that you're a Commanders fan. You're going to say you're a Raiders fan at that point.
You could, honestly, I could see Giants fans moving here and saying, we like the Nationals too.
Yep,
okay?
Exactly.
Even though they're in the same league, whatever, and have played each other in the playoffs. Sure.
They're AL,
right.
NL.
But you will never say, I used to be a 49ers fan, but now I'm a Commanders fan.
Correct.
You would never say that.
The fandom doesn't work that way in the NFL.
Not in the NFL.
So that's why I think the post here, I respect what they did here.
And I'll say this too, like, listen, as we just chronicled all the struggles of this organization, they've been to the playoffs, 5 times in 20-something years. They've won one playoff game over that period of time. Trust me when I tell you this. Every road game I go to, they are represented.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because you never drop the fandom in this sport.
Exactly.
They are everywhere we go. They are represented. In certain places, I'm not surprised. When you're going to SoFi, someone put that on the list and said, I want to go see it, so let's go. Or they're playing in Vegas. Yeah, let's go.
Right.
Or Green Bay, for that matter, where I'm like, you've got to go. When they go there, it's a great reason to go see it. But even in places like Atlanta, there's tons of Commanders fans at those games.
Right.
Carolina, tons. Dallas, obviously. Or even when we go, we have a Monday night game with Cincinnati. There'll be a ton of Commanders fans in that stadium just because it's a Monday night game and they're going to it. And there might be some people who are from here that live out there.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I just think with the post here, I see what you were doing. But if you're asking across the major 4 sports teams here, those are all 4 different questions.
I agree.
I'm just saying, you ask somebody for a baseball fan compared to their NFL team, it's a different question.
I mean, I'll even tell you, my buddy who still loves the Giants, but is okay with the Dolphins because he lives down in South Florida now. He's like, you know what it is? I listen to sports radio and they talk about them all day long.
Yeah.
So I know their story now.
Yeah, of course.
And we don't play them.
Right.
So that one time that they happen to be coming down here and we play them, well, then I root for the Giants.
Of course.
But outside of that, I don't really care. But he's a one-off on that way.
Exactly.
And he was embarrassed to say it. I kind of like the Dolphins. But he's like, he always qualified it with, but they're not our rival.
That's right.
So I don't really, but I'm around them all the time.
You know your bread is buttered?
Yes. I'm around them constantly.
It's not like we take calls on this station, but when you and I work for the other station, we'd have Cowboys fans call in and lay on Commanders topics because they're listening to it.
That's right.
But they were never Commanders fans. So, like I said, I think it's a different animal when you ask people that question. I think there needs to be a follow-up. Are you from here?
Are you from here?
And that's going to answer a whole different thing. So.
Okay. One other thing I need to ask you about. Did you tweet out something about the pandas yesterday? Because that's mine, and I've copyrighted that, and that is mine, and I want the name. I want a name of a team here to be the Washington Pandas, and you know this, and I think you co-opted it yesterday, if I saw that correctly.
You're right. It is your thing.
That's my thing. You made fun of me when I said I want the Washington Pandas.
I'm just saying, I think my literal tweet was, how has no one done Washington Pandas yet? That was it.
That's my thing, though, and you know it. I want a copyright on it.
I'm sorry, were you going to tweet that out? Because you weren't.
No, but it's still my thing, and it was my ideation, and there are tapes somewhere of me talking about this, and you made fun of me over and over. And I'm like, it'd be amazing, and the link of history of the Pandas to Washington, and it felt right because we're getting them back, apparently.
Yes,
that's in the news.
That's why I tweeted it.
We're actually getting it. Thank you, China. We're actually getting them back, which the National Zoo is not right without the pandas there.
Correct.
So we get the pandas back. I think it's a great name for a Washington team. And then anybody who asks, what does that mean? You can explain it, that it was the first time we had this agreement with the country of China to have their native animal in our zoo, the pandas. And you have no idea what kind of pandemonium occurred over periods of time when they were trying to get them pregnant for a while.
And then they had a cub. When they had a cub, it was actual pandemonium. Yes.
Craziness.
The reason I also said that too.
Plus, I also think the jerseys would be amazing. And if this was the basketball team, the center court logo would be outrageously great.
I think I need to preface this, though. I think you were throwing this out there when we were doing name talk.
Yeah,
and the name wasn't Commanders yet. And that's why I'm more open to it now.
Oh, I see. Okay, see, the
grass is greener on the other side with that name.
I want acknowledgement that I was early on that that's a great name for a Washington team, the Pandas.
I will agree with you.
Thank you.
I will agree
I'd like
with
to
you.
see that in an end zone.
Because
the Pandas.
Right now, the timeline, I don't like the one that we're in.
Black and white end zone that says Pandas in it? Oh, Lord. That's nice.
What if the panda has feathers on it?
I'm okay with that. What if Dan Quinn came to a press conference with a panda head with feathers on it? And didn't explain it.
It didn't explain it. That's right.
Where'd you get that? I don't know. Someone sent it to me.
You could offend everybody and put the panda in a headdress.
Yeah. Yes.
Everyone's offended at that point.
What appropriation is that?
He's holding a spear.
I don't know, but I don't like it.
He's holding a spear.
That's right.
Sponsored by Planet of the Apes.
Now he's Kung Fu Panda.
It's not sponsored by Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Yeah. None of it even make sense? You know you're supposed to be offended.
So
you're not sure
you're
how.
You're so offended you don't know what you're offended by.
You don't even know what you're offended by. It's so offensive, I don't even know how I'm offended. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Throwback Thursday 2018. We're 6 years to the day of one of the greatest moments in Washington sports history. Braden Holtby saved Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final. The Capitals would win Game 2 to tie that series at 1. They would not lose again, and it was en route to their one and only Stanley Cup championship in their franchise's history. You just said that Drew Brees is going into the Saints Hall of Fame this year. Is that right? They announced that. Mm-hmm. We are playing in New Orleans in December.
Yep.
We've been homecoming for a lot of teams. Denver did it this year. Actually, was it this year or a couple years ago?
Couple years ago when
they put Peyton Manning in. We were
Yep.
there when we played the Broncos, lost that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the
Halloween.
one. Was that the one? I think Montez Sweat got hurt in that game. That was the one he broke his jaw. I'm pretty sure that was the game.
I just remember it was Halloween. It was literally October 31st.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And we played terrible. We had a chance to win right at the end.
We did, yes.
It was like a low scoring, nothing. Teddy Bridgewater, not a lot going on. Coin flip game. We had a chance to win right at the end.
Exactly.
And then the Colts did it a couple years ago with Tarek Glenn and a number. Peyton Manning showed up to that one too.
Yeah, Peyton was there. Yeah.
Right. And then that was the Terry game where he made that crazy catch on Stephon Gilmore and we won right at the end. That was a great Heineke moment.
Correct.
At the end of the game.
Yeah, good Heineke.
So we've been homecoming for a number of teams last couple of years.
Yes.
We have one too. We got Daryl. So I don't know who we're going to do that against. I advocate against Dallas personally.
Right.
Because it's not the last game of the year.
That's right. Yeah. It's going to be halfway through.
Because, he's just so associated with beating them or, competing against them.
Right.
But I don't know. We'll see what they do, what they choose. Not that they need a selling point for a Cowboys.
I was going to say, that's always a point here where if you honor him during one of those lesser-known opponents.
Cleveland?
You sell a few more tickets. Yes, correct.
Yeah. There's a late season game with Atlanta.
Yep. There's late one with
the
Atlanta.
Last home
Panthers.
game. The last home game's Atlanta. Yep. There's a Panthers game too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Panthers game is a 4:00 game too. That got moved. I don't know if they got moved at the last second or what, but that wasn't a 1:00 game when the schedule was dropped. Now it's a 4:00 game. So yeah.
I'm going to get into Ben Johnson, who spoke about why he's staying in Detroit in a minute.
Yeah.
But I got to spend a few minutes congratulating Brian Keefe on getting the official head coaching job with the Washington Wizards. I think this is the right choice.
Yes.
They don't have a very good competitive team right now, but when they made the change and they moved, Wes into the front office and now he's left and they gave him the job full time, the team got better, like exponentially better. They became watchable. There were plenty of nights where they just were not the better team, but there were plenty of nights where they won games we were surprised by. Or were right there for a while. And I knew that couldn't last over a period of time. Just not being the better team is going to end up with the record you're going to end up with.
Right.
But I thought, he made some tough decisions. He put Poole on the bench, then allowed him to play more on the ball. And Poole even admitted, I saw a quote from him basically saying, kudos to him for figuring out how to use me to my best ability, which is the job of a coach, to be flexible, put the guys in the position that gives them the best shot to perform at their best. Kuzma seemed to be happy here, didn't want to be traded, right? And maybe that's an indictment of how bad he wants to win right now. Or maybe he liked what was going on here and likes being here and wanted to live up to the commitment. Denny's growth this year was exponentially good, like way better than I even would have expected.
Sure.
And now I've got different feelings about what his future is here. He's turned into a premier starter for them. That's a really good sign. And I don't want to credit all of it to this one coach, but this all started to happen after they made this change. He reminds me a little of Spoelstra he just kind of was in the backdrop as what seems to be a lifer film nerd of basketball, and he's finally just kind of getting a chance, and all that experience is kind of coming out in real time. And, the good news for him actually is there's no expectations on this team. So really anything that they do reflects well on him. But I want to give him credit because they got a lot better. They were a heck of a lot more competitive. They traded away Gafford, which means they had no front court whatsoever. Like, they barely had one when Gafford was here. Then they didn't have one at all when they made the move,
right,
and allowed him to go. So he was not playing with anything even remotely close to a full deck. He's playing with 4 cards. Everyone else got 5.
Yeah, right.
So, I want to give him a lot of credit, and I thought it was logical that they give him the job, at least in the short term, because they're not going to be exponentially different. They're not going to be out trying to get Paul George or something like that this offseason. Like, that's not going to happen. So they're going to build, as they've said. They're people of, I saw Will Dawkins do interviews. They're not changing how they're thinking about rebuilding this team. Like, They haven't, all of a sudden, they're going to go try to get Harden or George or something like that. They're not going to go do that. So I think they got the right guy who's got them happy to be with one another. They're more competitive. Expectations are extremely low. And I think they picked the right guy.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but basically what it is at this point is you don't need to pay a premier head coach in the state that this team is in. So
he might end up being one. That's the silly part of this whole thing.
I agree, but at the same time,
you never know. These guys, some of these guys are sitting in the backdrop like this. The Lakers are about to go hire JJ Redick. He's never coached before.
Right.
I don't question his acumen. The guy played forever. I see him on TV. He sounds like he knows exactly what he's doing. Does this podcast with LeBron. Sounds like they know what they're talking about. But until he's put out there, you don't really know what kind of coach he's going to be. This guy's been on benches and in the backdrop in organizations for years.
Yeah.
That experience for him is exponentially better than anybody you just pluck off TV who had an NBA career. And at me if you think I'm wrong about that. I think on-the-job training is worth more than anyone who's had any kind of level of experience, but not literally on the job.
Right. No, I agree. I would just say, realistically, though, they were going to sign I don't want to disparage him, but they're not going to go for a premier head coach. The roster's the way it is. And I think the comparison we had the other day was he doesn't have as much personality as him, but it's Randy Whitman. He's got him playing hard, got him playing the right style.
Look at his Timberwolves coach. He doesn't have a personality. You've seen him talk.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I think for the here and now, these guys are playing together. They got better. They became more competitive. They seem to be buying into whatever he's telling them to do. They're not good enough to win at a high level, but that's all that's important to me right now. And as long as he gets them on track with the program they're trying to build, then he's doing his job. And if on the other side of it, whatever their process is, that they start winning and he's part of it, well, then he stays.
Right.
And maybe he's a better coach than people think he is, and you happened on a good one. So I think they did the right thing here. Why shift gears and get away from what's going on? I mean, you made your bed. You have to sleep in it. Don't shift gears and bring in another coach who's going to try to change everything. I thought it was logical just to stick with them, at least in the short term, and see how it goes. And if they keep getting better and they put some better players on the team and they start winning and foster a really good team chemistry, which seemed to start actually happening by the end of the year, well, then maybe he's the right guy long term for them. So I think the right decision was made there. The other thing I saw was the Lakers are going to actively try to trade Rui Hachimura.
Speaking of that Denny thing, they made the right call there. Because remember, that was the argument of
argument.
Rui, or
I
do you
still
keep
think they
Denny?
got nothing for him.
That was the market, though, that year. That was the market.
I guess.
Remember, that was the market. Everyone was trading second-round picks. Nobody was trading first.
I also think he can play.
Yeah.
And I also think when you're on Team LeBron, if anything goes wrong, you get blamed.
That's the actual island. I don't know what our island was comparatively, but that's the actual survivor. Like, if you screw up, he is voting you off.
It seems that he blows out everybody's torches, though.
Yeah. Yes.
But his own. And
Correct.
Anthony Davis.
He has immunity the whole time.
Immunity. Constant immunity. You all fight. I'm going to sit over here.
I haven't watched Survivor in like 25 years.
Yeah.
So I still know that.
Let's see where Rui ends up now. But it said 2 years, $35 million. That sounds like a lot. It's not a big number in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's that's like a mid-tier number.
Some Eastern Conference contender is going to get him.
No doubt.
Just to add him to the roster.
Actually, I think he's going to be valuable. He's going to be a valuable trade product. Yeah, because he's not making a ridiculous amount of money. Like, he fits in people's salary cap. You don't have to move
Bing
heaven and
bong.
earth. Bing bongs. He might be a bing bong player.
That'd be funny. Rui in a Knicks jersey would actually look good, I think.
I could see someone like Brad Stevens picking someone like him
Maybe.
up.
Yeah.
I just going, you know what? We just take good players here.
Yeah.
That's all.
I don't think
we'll fit him in.
I don't think he's going to the West, though, because the West is too stacked. You can't give anyone an advantage. Like, you just
maybe not.
I think we're gonna start seeing this, that you're only trading from the other conference.
Look at a team like Indiana, who's like, we just take good players.
Maybe.
We'll fit them in. We'll figure out a way to fit them in. All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram watches the show. ESPN 630 at Sports Capital. So my Thursday is 2018, which is we are to the day of the save made by Braden Holtby, Game 2 against the Vegas Golden Knights. Washington would end up winning Game 2, evening the series in the Stanley Cup Final. They wouldn't lose again, and the Capitals won in the Alex Ovechkin era, his one and only Stanley Cup, and of course the one and only Stanley Cup of the franchise's history, which is actually in its 50th year starting this season. So this could be a really fun season with them as they're going to commemorate all the great years of 50 years of the Washington Capitals. So that's going to be cool to see what they do. Maybe you'll drop some hints because I'm sure you'll have some inside information of things they may be doing.
I've poked around.
Maybe not yet.
I've been poking around for a year actually on that because I also was poking around of like, you guys need some help. I got some ideas.
Yeah.
Like, wear every jersey you've ever worn. I feel like you should be doing that. There's
would
not
be
a lot
fun.
of them. There's not a lot.
Yeah.
There's the old ones. There's the new ones. A couple alternates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could have Rod Langway's Tiki Lounge. Be fun.
Langway's Tiki.
Yeah.
I was playing Imagine Dragons there. I don't know if you remember, though. They played before one of those games.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Outside in Vegas?
No. On the ice.
Oh, on the ice.
Yeah. And the joke with Imagine Dragons, though, was if they were playing, like, the home team lost every time that year.
Oh.
And I remember being like, I tweeted out, like, Imagine Dragons playing, Caps are going to win.
Yeah.
They won. Like,
Caps to the moon.
They played, like, I think they played the college playoff that year, too. Like, whoever was up lost after that.
Oh.
Like, yeah, they're like,
That's a good curse.
Imagine Dragons curse, apparently.
That's a good curse. They, by the way, in terms of game presentation in the arena,
best.
Unrivaled.
Yeah, best. I had a friend that ran out there
that
recently.
Game 1 Stanley Cup Final.
It's great.
Even the warm-ups.
Yes.
You would have thought you were in Hakkasan.
Correct.
It was amazing.
Correct.
And I remember walking out of there going, whoever's doing this, and I know it's Vegas, the other teams need to hire these people because they know what they're doing. The stadium was going nuts during warm-ups because the music they were playing in there was just incredible.
I had a friend who just went out there, and he's a diehard Caps fan. And I was like, go buy a Vegas T-shirt, buy a hat, be a fan for that team. And he was like, sure, like that feels weird. And I was like, no, like just embrace it for a night. And it was the first night they had like the castle shooting off fireworks or something. I'm like, yeah, of course. They do that every game. Like there's something new every single game. And it's the craziest in-game presentation in all of sports, I would say.
It's
easily.
incredible.
Easily.
Yeah, and it's Vegas.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we went out, the only time I've seen the football game out there was the Raiders-Commanders a couple of years ago. Yeah. And even that was
right. Yeah.
We saw who was it?
Wasn't it Run DMC?
Run DMC was halftime.
Yeah, and then wasn't post.
They played It's Tricky.
Yeah,
and I was like, this is unbelievable. Like I was like, they didn't even announce it. Like that's how commonplace it is to have a halftime act like that. We have dogs catching frisbees. They had Run DMC. And then afterwards, it was
Diplo? Was it
Diplo?
Yeah,
Diplo
yeah.
in the club, and Julie's taking photos of me.
Favorite video of you ever.
Photos of me dancing because we won. That was another one we won at the buzzer.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I think it was that kicker.
We
We were in the midst of all the kicker stuff was going on.
Wasn't
I don't think it was Blewett who hit that kick, but it was somebody else. It wasn't. It was in the midst of Ron changed kickers a few times, and it came down to I think it was a hometown guy that was kicking for us that week, and we won late.
17-15, your final score. Logan Thomas had 48 yards and a touchdown. He had a big touchdown.
I think he got hurt in that game too. Actually, that might have been the one he got hurt.
You're right. Your kicker. There's no way you'll remember who the kicked.
I can't remember the name. I'm pretty sure he's from here.
It is the most generic name of all
from
time.
here.
Yeah, he's the one that went to Gonzaga.
Yeah,
he said he grew up a Ravens fan.
Oh, right. I didn't like that.
Brian Johnson.
Your
kicker.
I knew it. It was like a no-name kicker. Won the game, and he won it, right? Like in the last minute.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it looks like. Hold on, I'm just looking at the score. Yeah, they scored 10 points in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the field goal was in the final minute that beat them.
Yeah.
And I remember I said jackpot, and then everybody got on me because apparently that's what Brent Musburger used to say, but I didn't know that.
Right.
And I was like, oh, whoops, I didn't mean to do that.
Yes.
Oh, well. Speaking of ex-Raiders, Okay, I guess we're just in this space now where everybody produces a diss track. I have not seen it yet, but Darren Waller put out a music video dissing his now ex-wife.
Was it dissing her, or was it like a sad track? I thought it was like a sad track.
I haven't watched it yet, but everybody is like, well, this is something like where he's...
Because it has a lookalike of her in the video.
Yes.
Because he was dating a WNBA player. She's like a star.
Kelsey Plum.
Kelsey Plum, yes, exactly.
Dating, he was married.
Yeah, exactly.
They just got divorced. Remember, she announced that she had to get divorced. She didn't exactly say why, and then quoted something out of the Bible. You know, it was like, this isn't good.
Yeah, no,
it's
and
not now he's put out a video.
It's not a diss track. I'm looking at descriptions. Emotional and a ballad.
A ballad
is what it's been called. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm not in diss track world. I can't. I am aware they exist, and I saw a lot of Kendrick's, and I realize he killed Drake, but I'm a little out on everything else.
The song.
I guess someone else did C.J. Gardner-Johnson did a diss track of Antonio Brown. Did you see that one?
I didn't see it. I don't care about that one.
Right.
That's
this is why I'm a little,
two knuckleheads going at it.
Yes, but like he did put a Steelers jersey up and write "clown" on the back of it, which that was my favorite part of it. But
that's funny.
The rest of it, I just couldn't follow. Like he was saying things that it was like, I don't know this story, so I can't even keep up with it. I don't even know what you're talking about.
The description on one of the websites, the song is called, quote, "Who Knew?" in parentheses, her perspective.
Oh.
Waller said he wrote it from the viewpoint of a woman trying to love him.
Oh, okay. I may listen to it. Maybe.
I'm just saying.
I'm not psyched for the new diss tracks, but I'll.
Well, no. I think this is worse actually, because now you dropped a track that's sensitive, and you play in the NFL, buddy. And,
does he? He was talking about retiring for a while there.
Okay,
I don't know that it's even certain he's coming back.
Okay, well, if he does come back, fans are going to make fun of him.
Yes,
guys
they
on
are.
the field are going to have a day talking about that. So
people are going to play this in the stadium.
Yeah, he's going to drop a pass. They're going to start playing the song. Yeah.
Remember,
exactly.
last year, anytime Kelsey did anything wrong, they're playing Taylor Swift songs.
Yeah. There are two tweets I want to get to just because I saw them here. You never want to be the main character on Twitter. Congrats, Darren Waller, for being that guy today. 2, fantasy football last place punishment, new one today. Recreating the Darren Waller divorce music video shot for shot, which is a good one.
That is a good one.
I think that's an excellent one.
That is an excellent one.
As we have to keep reinventing last place punishment.
You have to recreate this shot for shot.
Because, look, there are these shots where he's, laying in the water. With half his
it would
head
actually take you 3 days to make it. Yeah.
So there are these
You'd have to go on location, do the whole thing.
So.
You're going to have to find a place where there's a beach, a lot of costume changes.
Right, exactly.
So, that would be incredible to show at next year's draft. Here's the recreation of the Darren Waller sad video.
That would be incredible. So, yes, that's.
Oh, man.
Like I said, never want to be the main character on Twitter.
Let's see. This story went away for a long time, but remember, once upon a time, Ben Johnson texted the Commanders on their way to Detroit to interview him for the head coaching job that he no longer wanted to be considered for the head coaching job.
Right.
To which, a lot of scrutiny came to the Commanders that they were left at the altar.
Correct.
And they said, we were never hiring him definitively in the first place. We were actually coming to interview him and Aaron Glenn, and we hadn't made a decision about anybody. And this guy decided not to take the interview, which is okay.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Whatever.
Yep.
So, didn't look good for anybody, honestly. And in the end, I don't want somebody here who doesn't want the job. I don't care how, I thought it was professionally ridiculous to do it the way he did it, just out of professional advice from somebody who's a little older than you and is, oftentimes telling billionaires at the last minute that you don't want to speak to them. It's just a bad idea. Because there's only 32 of them in the NFL, buddy.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's not going to play well. That's just professional advice to you. But whatever, you do you. He was finally asked today, why did you not take that interview? And this was his answer to that. So 2021 and early part of 2022, Dan Campbell had made this analogy to the team that we were sailing down the ocean, and at the moment we were in the Arctic.
Love it. I love it because it's Dan.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm in.
We were hitting the icebergs, had the storms going on, and those were the dark days. But he had the foresight. He had the vision of where we were going and where we were heading. He assured us, quote, guys, I see where we're going. The results haven't been there yet, but the Caribbean's on the horizon. It's coming up. I'm sitting on the plane thinking back to that. The story of my career has been living in that Arctic for a lot of it. The second time I've been to the playoffs, the first time I've experienced winning games in the playoffs. I think when it boils down to it, I wanted the sunshine a little bit longer. I like what we've built here.
Okay.
You're not up for another challenge.
Right.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I hear you. The league was trying to tell you you're ready. We weren't the only ones.
That's right.
In fact, there were you were considered, at least among all the punditry, the top candidate. We knew who the GM was going to be for a while. He didn't turn us down at the last minute.
Right. Yep.
Because I think he realized that, yes, this is going to be a challenge, but this is an all new environment. And look at what we're trying to do here. Don't you want to be part of this? We were not the only team that was thinking about him. In fact, others the previous year wanted to interview him and talk to him. The league had basically circled him and said, he's your next head coaching candidate. Go try to get him. A number of teams wanted to. So it wasn't just us. I think it got down to the point where it became so obvious that he was a front runner for us that other people just backed away and said, you know what? What are we waiting him out for? Let's just go hire other people. And once all the other jobs got filled, it became almost obvious that he was going to be the choice here. And then
so much so, remember in the championship game, I forget who the announcer was just going.
Kevin Burkhardt said it.
Yeah, it's literally going. He's
probably going to be the Commanders head coach.
Future in Washington. And I remember we're all like.
Which apparently was news to him.
Yeah, right.
Even though we were all sitting there going, I know he's a top candidate. Yeah. And as long as he wants the job, which is the part we didn't know. Do you want it? And I guess it came down to he didn't. And this is interesting. I mean, he would rather be a coordinator with that team and try to win, which I don't knock him for that, I guess. Go ahead.
Right.
Versus take on the challenge of being the head coach on a team that is not ready to win right at this very moment. But as we stand today, his quarterback could be Jaden Daniels with all the different changes that occurred, and he didn't want that challenge.
Right.
So I thought the interesting part of it was he turned down the opportunity to handpick his quarterback outside of Callow Williams.
Yeah,
that's the other part of it that was, you're the offensive coordinator. We're telling you anybody but Callow Williams is going to be available to you.
Right.
Which one do you want?
Right. That's what I think was kind of the weird thing about this. You're never going to find a better scenario than what they were handing you.
Because look, if you are a top candidate, you're probably going to a team that is in this kind of situation. Right. They fired their coach for a reason.
Exactly.
Most people don't end up in a really good situation. You have to make the most of what it is. It's very rare. Every once in a while, someone leaves, retires, gets ill, whatever it is, and the team's in good shape and you take over in that situation. That's not the majority of these situations. The majority of them are like this, where there's something broken, it's got to be fixed. So he's just not ready for a challenge.
Right.
And he likes what he's got in front of him, which I don't blame him on some level. You do like what you have in front of you. And there is some kind of us against the world mentality thing. And Jared Goff's trying to prove it. And Amon-Ra St. Brown's trying to prove it. And Campbell's nuts and he's trying to prove it. And you like it. And hey, man, live your life the way you want to live. I don't want to tell you guys have a nice little fraternity going on up there. I don't want to break that up if that's what you want to be part of. But I don't know. There's also part of me that goes, why didn't you want the challenge?
Right. Well, not only that.
You've already been in one. You know what it is.
Yeah.
Why you didn't want another one as the head coach? You didn't want that?
Right. Not only that, you also, the momentum of this franchise wasn't appealing to you either. Okay. Once again, you weren't going to find a better scenario to step into because everyone here, it's sunshines and rainbows and butterflies with new ownership group or a GM and everything. It was going to be a team effort if it didn't work out anyway. So
we think the Falcons wanted to talk to him.
Right.
They just acquired Kirk Cousins and are clearly a team that might win their division. You didn't want to talk to them.
Right.
And that seems to be not maybe on par with Detroit, but not far from it.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Probably not. You know, not far from it. You didn't want to talk to Carolina again. I get it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, do you want to go to the team with the worst record 2 years running?
Right,
exactly. You know, and you may not like Bryce Young, and
you're
I don't know.
Right, you have to ride it out for at least 2 more years.
I'll hear you. You want to be a little selective. I get it. Did the Patriots want to talk to you? You didn't want to go there for whatever. You don't want to follow in Belichick's footsteps. You don't like their team right now. Whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would look at this and go, I'm not up for that challenge, but it's your prerogative to not feel that way. But, and I guess if in the end, all it is you want to try to see it through with that team and then you'll get to being a head coach on the other side. We'll see if you end up being a head coach on the other side. Because the risk of doing something like this is if your offense isn't as effective as it was in the past, or if your team, I don't know, makes the playoffs, but just as a wild card because Green Bay's better and Chicago's better.
Right.
And you just kind of slip in and you don't go anywhere this time. And it seems like, well, you peaked back in 2023. Well, guess what? People aren't going to be clamoring to get you. Mm-hmm. This again, goes back to professional advice. You got to strike when the iron's hot, whether you want to or not. And maybe this guy is so uber confident in himself that he believes that this is just going to continue to go in an upward trajectory. And maybe it will. I look at the NFL and I go, nothing's for certain in any given year whatsoever. Just because Houston had the year last year that they had does not mean they're going to go 13-4 this time.
Right. Exactly.
Just because Detroit finally won their division for the first time in however many years and won a playoff game and nearly won another one, it doesn't mean it's going to happen again. In fact, it probably won't. Right. In most years, most teams don't win their division back-to-back years. In our division, where we've had, Philadelphia's been a consistent for a long time. Andy Reid was their coach for a long time. They've had very good rosters for a long time. They've been consistently good for a long time. And they have not won this division in back-to-back years in 20 years.
Right.
Guess what, guys? Every year's different in this league. And so, do what you want to do. It's over now. This isn't spilled milk to me. Yeah. I'm happy with what we have here. And actually, in the end, I'd rather have the guy who's gung-ho, wants to do it,
of course,
wants to be here, wants the challenge, than the guy who doesn't and is complacent where he is. And I understand why he's complacent, because winning there would be a really big deal. They've never won. Yeah. So I get it. I totally get it. It's not like he's part of Shanahan's tree, and they've won maybe not the big one lately, but they're in it right there every single year, and everyone assumes they're going to win, and you want to make a name for yourself. Doing it there means something. All of those guys get statues if they actually win a Super Bowl there. But I look at them and I go, they're not that much better than most other teams. This is risky.
Yeah. Well,
even as much as you like it, it's risky. Just because they're really good last year doesn't mean they're going to be really good this year. The Rams got better. San Francisco is as good. Atlanta got better. The teams in their own division, Green Bay got better as the season got along. The Bears are a total wild card now. They could be really good in year one. They could still be kind of on the cusp, but you don't know. If Caleb's good, they're in trouble. If he's what they think he's going to be, they're in trouble. So this is a risky thing to do. I hope you're right about the Caribbean, but you may not be.
He screams a guy that another franchise is going to hire once it's all said and done, and then it's going to be so lukewarm by the time he gets his head coaching gig.
Right.
Not unlike, I would compare it
You're the hot candidate.
Yeah, I would compare
You're not going to be unless you continue at this trajectory, and it's going to be hard to maintain that, even with the team that you have.
I would almost compare it to when your boy Cliffy got hired in Arizona.
Yeah.
And everyone was kind of like, huh?
He had to take that job.
Right.
He knows that.
Right.
And you know what? I have no illusions that if Washington's offense does pretty well in years 1 and 2 with him, that he'll get another job offered to him.
That's right.
And actually, I think this team is prepared for that by putting Brian Johnson and Anthony Lynn behind him.
Yep.
To go, when and if things go well and Kingsbury gets another job offered to him,
that's right,
because he gets a second go, we're ready with his replacement.
Yes, exactly.
They've thought through it. Yeah. We know that if he comes in here and this is like the guy in Houston. CJ Stroud had a rookie year that was off the charts. Well, that guy's getting interviews for head coaching jobs automatically. If Jaden Daniels is the NFL Rookie of the Year and he throws for 4,000 yards and rushes for 10 touchdowns, guess what's going to happen with Kingsbury?
Exactly.
He's going to get another head coaching job next year. Well, we're ready for that.
Yeah.
This guy's banking on, I'm going to be the hot candidate in perpetuity.
That's right, exactly.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Not in this business. Mm-hmm. I'm in the same type of business. Every once in a while, people take a shine to me, and I can't believe it. When they do, I take their money.
Right.
That's how it works.
Yeah, right.
You chose to tell billionaires, you know what? No thanks.
Text them
2 years in a row.
Text them on the phone on the way there.
Couldn't do it the night before?
Right.
I hope you still have the Caribbean because I like Dan Campbell and I like his anecdotes.
No,
he
that's
seems
great.
like a strange dude. I like him.
Sounds like
he
the
should
best.
write a book of poetry. I very much like him.
Poetry with Dan Campbell.
Yes.
Somebody get that. No.
Beer can poetry. I would like to hear
Beer
it.
can poetry.
That's pretty good.
I do like that one. I was going to say biting kneecaps poetry.
I feel like he's a modern day Mark Twain, this Dan Campbell guy. He spins a lot of yarns, but they work up there for them. Anyway, whatever. I'm glad he's not here because he didn't want to be here. Like, that's the important thing. Actually, he did us a favor because if he didn't really want to be here, then it's better off he's not.
Correct.
Because we're trying to go in one specific direction and he wasn't on board with it. So at least he was self-aware enough not to do it. I do think at the end it's a mistake for him personally, but whatever. I can't make you want something you don't want.
It's not our problem.
Not our problem. Not our problem.
That's right.
All right. Bye-bye.